Hey, campfire crew. Let's get it on. Hey, gang. Apologies for the short episode. I had another story in the hopper, but the author asked me to hold off for a little bit. So, respecting anyone who allows me to read their story or sends their stories in, I, of course, will do whatever they ask. Everyone, sit back and enjoy some true scary stories. Unsettling Experience in Northwest Montana by Dumb Blonde. My boyfriend and I, both 20, were up at the Libby Creek gold panning area on the evening of July 3rd from about 7 to 10 p.m. We met this genuinely really cool guy with his son who showed us how to do it, and we just did a road trip in gold panned and wanted to pick it up as a fun hobby. Super cool family, and helped us for like 2.5 hours. He took us down to an area he had a claim on, and we had parked at a pullout down by the Libby Creek Road where the first bridge is. Both my boyfriend and I and the man and his son, so there were 2 cars parked there. The man started telling us a story about how he and his son once found a human arm down the path where we were. Now I know this sounds fucking insane, but the son swore he saw it too, and he was only about 10 or 11. He told us that a lot of people go missing up here in the woods and no one ever hears about it or finds them. Apparently, there's tons of people living off the grid that don't want to be found for many reasons. The government once estimated that over 10,000 people died after some of the latest wildfires. Now, don't get me wrong, this guy wasn't creepy or weird at all. He was just genuinely trying to let us know the possible dangers of what was out there. Halfway through the evening, at about 8:30, I went to grab a sweatshirt and saw a dark gray truck with a hardcover canopy on it drive by with dogs barking. No big deal. I grabbed my sweatshirt and then went back to our spot down in the creek. The man and his son had left around 9:30, and we went back to our car at 9:35. My boyfriend wanted to check out a different area on the other side of the bridge, so he headed down there and I stayed in the car. It's important to note that this area has decent light until about 10:15 or 10:30. My boyfriend started walking back up not even 5 minutes later, saying he got this feeling that he was being watched. Meanwhile, when I was in the car, I had the same feeling, and I'm not a superstitious or anxious person, but I felt scared for my life, and I had no clue why it had just come out of nowhere. Seconds after he got back in the car, the same exact truck that I had seen earlier drove by and stopped halfway on the bridge and sat there for about a minute. The guy backed up, kind of blocking us into the pullout we were in. He got out of his truck and started asking us what we were doing. My boyfriend told him we were just leaving and then asked if he was the landowner just so we could be respectful and let him know that we were on the way out. He said no, and that he was going fishing in the area with his dogs. Fishing with your dogs at 10 p.m.? I don't know. We're not local to the area. We live over the border in Idaho. But that just seemed odd to us. The man got back in his truck to back out more, but then stopped again and started honking at us when we were turning around about to leave. He got out of his truck again and said, "Are you guys looking for something?" I mean, immediately we felt even weirder vibes than before. We told him that we'd been gold panning, but we're leaving. And he started going on about a campground up the road and that we should go up there as it's private. He was going on and on, trying to convince us to camp out there in the middle of nowhere. We told him we were going home, and finally he backed off and we drove away. My boyfriend and I both discussed how we had the same gut feeling someone had been watching us and that something bad was going to happen. I personally think that that man had been watching us, or at least me, from down or up the creek at one of the pullouts and possibly thought I was alone since he saw me go to the car alone. Then, when he saw the other truck leave and it was just one car, Well, that's when he came up the road and arrived just seconds after my boyfriend got into the car with me. We both think he was trying to get me alone to do who knows what. I mean, the fact that he saw me as clear as day twice when I was obviously alone was really unsettling. We don't think he was just going fishing, because as we were leaving, we saw him heading down the path without his dogs or any fishing gear. He or someone had to have been watching us. I mean, luckily I did have a gun in the car with me just in case. Now I know, a lot of people probably think we were just anxious and freaking out from what the man and his son had told us. But that guy in the truck was giving us the creepiest vibes ever. I've been stalked and almost attacked by a mountain lion, and I wasn't as scared as I was then compared to when this creepy guy was talking to us. I don't know. It could just all be coincidental, but it all seemed too perfectly timed. The Man Who Disappeared, submitted by Donnie Mack. My story starts in June, the summer of 2021, on a warm summer night. I live in Wisconsin, in an old residential neighborhood with a small neighborhood grocery store, a school, and neighbors who got along nicely. Like most nights, I enjoyed going out onto my front porch with a cup of coffee and relaxing with a nice cigar and just enjoying the peace and quiet that the evening brings, as well as give thoughts to how my day went and what projects or activities I had planned for the following day. Like most nights, my neighbor, who I'll refer to as Jake, would take a walk to the neighborhood gas station and return with a bag full of refreshments, snacks, and usually a pack of cigarettes he hid from his wife. Jake and his wife enjoyed staying up late and watching movies, so I knew there'd be a good chance that I would see him. On those nights, when he did head off to the store, he'd look over in my direction and acknowledge me, and we'd exchange pleasantries as to how the weather was that day or what plans we had for the following day. On the night that I'm talking about, I was enjoying my cigar along with a cup of coffee when I looked to my left and noticed a man walking. He was approaching the end of the street, ready to cross over to Jake's block. I believed it was Jake, even though I didn't see him leave, and the time was approaching midnight, which was a little bit later than his normal run. As he began to cross over the street, there was a glow on him from the streetlight, and I could see he was wearing all dark clothing, a black sweatshirt as well as black pants. Jake was about 6'1", and this man also appeared to be about 6'1", and from a distance it looked like Jake, or at least his silhouette did. As Jake began to walk down the block across from my home, I was preparing myself to wave and say hi to Jake and think of something interesting to chat with him about. As he came closer to his home, which was the third one from the end of the block, there was a massive 75-foot elm tree in front of his neighbor's house. I decided I'd wait before I acknowledged him with a shout, or wait until he at least walked beyond the tree. This is the part where my perception of life has changed. As I hunched forward with my cigar, ready to shout to Jake, or who I believed to be Jake, I waited for at least 15 seconds for him to get past the tree. When he didn't walk beyond the tree, I thought to myself he must be tying his shoe. Maybe he dropped something like change or a cigarette and was looking for it in a crouched-down position. That would explain why I didn't see him. I then stood up and walked down my steps to the road where I had a good angle on the tree to see for myself what was going on. As I came closer to the other side of the street, I had a full view of the sidewalk in front of the tree. There was no Jake, nor was there any man. I was rattled so much I came back to my porch and tried to explain to myself what had just happened for the next 2 hours. I tried to rationalize everything I saw and told myself maybe I overlooked the possibility that whoever it was crossed in between the homes or was hiding on the porch of the homeowner. Every possible scenario that I couldn't explain, I'd given explanation to what I saw, and it just made no sense. I realized that it was not Jake, but some man. But how could a man disappear behind a tree? As I sat on my porch recalling what had just happened, I looked around and was hoping to catch another neighbor who might have been sitting on their porch themselves enjoying the evening. Unfortunately, because of the late time, everyone was in bed except for me. After a third cigar, I realized it was time to go to bed. I need this to say, once in the comfort of my bed, I still could not rationalize or explain what had happened. The following day, I was hoping any of my neighbors would come forward and mention something about that evening, and possibly something that they saw. No one came forward, and I decided not to share my story with anybody so nobody would think that I was the one in the neighborhood. I did see Jake the next day and asked him if he had stepped out to take a walk to the gas station the night before. Jake smiled and said it was an early night for he and his wife. As I said, I didn't want to share this story with anybody, because if it makes no sense to me, how would it make any sense to my neighbors? But there is a footnote to this story. At the end of the summer, my neighbor across the street had that tree cut down. When asked by several neighbors why she wanted it taken down, she would only say it was for personal reasons. Them Outside the Window by Ozzy Osbourne. I've talked about this in different events that happened when I was a child and an adult. But there is more that happened out in Roy, Washington, and my brother and I had blocked it out or thought they were just nightmares that we had kept to ourselves, not realizing that we had the same experiences until later on when we talked about creepy things around our home. Like the teen boy with the small afro and the bloody shirt that I saw throughout the years, or the deer carcass in the middle of an abandoned house. Events like these, we were told that they were just our imaginations or bad dreams by our parents. And up until a few days ago, as a 30-year-old man, I do remember and believe that many of those events actually happened. My twin brother texted me, asking if I remembered people outside the window in our backyard and just beyond the fence in the woods. A memory came crashing back into my mind. Something I had forgotten about that terrified me to the bone. A chill went through my body just thinking about it. My childhood home is in the middle of the woods in Roy, Washington. Roy is your typical small town in Washington, consisting of a gas station and an elementary school. We lived about a mile or two outside of the town itself, down a long gravel road with thick trees on either side. I didn't know what light pollution was until I moved out at 18, and Roy was considered to be a part of the Nisqually tribe's land before the town was founded in 1809. One night, when I was 11 years old, I woke up to the feeling of eyes around me. My curtains were shut and my window was open. All that I could see, with a little light the moon had to offer, when my curtains would blow open from a gust of spring air, was a bedroom with comic books on a beanbag chair, action figures on a bookshelf, and a messy closet. I turned on my lamp to take a better look around my room. There were no scary figures in the corner that magically turned into a pile of clothes, or ghosts turning into a hanging coat. Everything was as I had left it when I went to sleep. Even though I wasn't scared of monsters under the bed at that age, I still checked there. I switched off my lamp then, and settled back in my bed. It wasn't long after that this feeling of pupils being directed towards me returned. I sat up, taking in my surroundings once more with nothing but the same as before. This feeling felt more concentrated towards my window. I peeked my head from under my curtains, letting them drape over the back of my head. And outside, 10 figures stood scattered in my backyard facing the house. Some 10 feet from the house, some 20. Some were behind the fence. I couldn't see any more, but I felt like there were more in the woods. I couldn't make out their faces with the light of the night sky, but their faces were blurry, distorted like static, and they were dark. I couldn't see their eyes that peered at me, but nevertheless, I could feel their unwavering gaze. I could hear a soft melody being emitted from one, Then another would let out a melody, followed by another and another until it reached back to the first. Like communication. This wasn't a garbled up mess of noises, but more like a soft tune being carried by the wind. I went to wake up my parents in the next room. My mom told me that I had had a nightmare and that it was nothing. I told her to look outside in the backyard, and my dad, now awake, told me that he would go check it out. He may have believed that it was a nightmare as well, but after news of a neighbor having had a break-in the week prior, he wasn't going to take the chance of trespassers at our house. He went in the dark to the kitchen window downstairs and saw nothing. He told me everything was safe and to go to bed. I remember as I was going back into my room, my twin brother was walking out of my parents' room. By the morning, I was convinced that it was a nightmare, and like many nightmares I'd had as a child, it slipped away from memory. Until my twin brother texted me, asking me if I remembered people in our backyard. He'd had a similar experience that same night. He caught them leaving, though. When he heard me and my dad walking down the stairs, he saw the figures dissipate like dirt being swept away in the wind. By the time my dad and I were downstairs, they were gone. He remembered the tune that passed through them, and he said he catches himself whistling it when he does the dishes or drives to work. We don't know what they were. They didn't seem like people, ghosts, or spirits. They felt like something older than a ghost, something more connected to what is in the land. We just call them, for lack of a better name. We never saw them again, and now they've faded into nothing more than something in my mind. Hey gang, thanks for listening to this episode. If you have a true scary story of any nature that you'd like me to narrate, email it to UncleJosh@truescarystories@gmail.com. I read them all. If you like what you've heard or seen and you're watching this on YouTube, why not give the video a thumbs up? Maybe subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and maybe even tell a friend about the channel. I would appreciate all of that. And if you're so inclined, let me know what you thought of the stories. Leave a comment. If you'd like to take your support of what I'm doing a step further, there's a link to my Patreon page in the description. And how about getting some Uncle Josh and Campfire Crew merchandise? A link to my TeePublic storefront is in the description as well. Everyone, be excellent to each other. And until next time, be wary of things that go bump in the night. It could be anything. A ghost, a monster, or the guy next door.